Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Monday, February 23rd, 2026. It's Faithon with tonight's episode of The Swamp. Early voting is underway in the state of Texas, and as of today, day number 6, Democrats lead Republican votes by almost 100,000. So if you happen to live in the state of Texas and you haven't early voted, no big deal. Just make damn sure that you will be voting when the time comes. And in the meantime, annoy everyone you know to get out there and vote as well. Today, President Trump signed a proclamation declaring February 22nd as National Angel Family Day. He gave a speech and invited angel families to the podium to share their heartbreaking stories. Democrat Rep Tony Gonzalez is in boiling hot water after text messages were released showing him messaging a former female staffer pressing for sexy photos and other inappropriate conduct before she allegedly Control-Alt-Deleted herself. Peter Mandelson, former UK ambassador to the United States, has been arrested in connection to the Epstein files. It's being alleged he was handing confidential government information over to Jeffrey Epstein. And President Trump issues a stern warning to all countries around the world. If they use the Supreme Court decision to circumvent the current tariffs that are in effect, or at least attempt to do so, they will be met with much harsher penalties. And one of the most ruthless drug cartel kingpins was gunned down by Mexican security forces over the weekend, and the cartels heavily retaliated against Mexican forces and innocent bystanders. Gunfire, car fires, and structure fires broke out all over the region. What the Mexican president says in response will shock you. And a massive nor'easter blizzard wiped out New England, leaving Providence, Rhode Island with a record 33 inches of snow. New York City received over 2 feet of snow. There were widespread snowball fights, and Mayor Mamdani couldn't find anyone to shovel his snow. And there's a lot more that happened today, so we're going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like if you get a second, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the daily updates as to what's going on in the swamp each day. And actually, if you leave a comment below, I might just read it on tomorrow's episode if you just so happen to come up with anything. And any article you'll see in the video will be linked below in the description. So we're going to start right here with the political HQ. Democrats now lead Republicans by 95,139 votes in the cumulative day 6 early vote total for the Texas primaries. Democrats are currently sitting at 638,082 total votes for the state, which is 102.1% of the 2022 final. So there's still multiple days left to go. I think it's, I want to say it's March the 3rd. I might not be exact on that date, but I want to say it. Yeah, it is. It is right here. Scott Presler, March 3rd. So the primary is still multiple days away. So there's still a number of days left for early voting. And Democrats have already surpassed their final number for 2022 with early voting. So they are out in fierce numbers, and Republicans are trailing with only 542,943 votes, which is only 53% of their 2022 final. For whatever reason, Republicans are not turning out at all in Texas. So you might want to inform anybody that lives in Texas that, look, if they're not going to early vote, that's not the end of the world. What really matters is that they turn out and vote in the midterms, period. So as long as they're going to go out and vote, that's, it's not a deal breaker if they don't go early vote. All this does is just give Democrats a lot of ammunition in the early part of the election season. However, Republicans, they usually turn out to vote on election day anyway, and Democrats know that, which is probably why they're busting their asses to try to get as many out there as possible. But look, early voting certainly doesn't help. If you want to get out there and early vote, definitely go out and do that. And we've got this from Based Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee. What's the best thing the GOP Senate could do to boost GOP voter turnout in 2026? Well, I think the answer to that's obvious. If you are familiar with Scott Presler, which Mike Lee obviously is because he's reposting Scott Presler's post, you need a lot more Scott Preslers. You need people that go door to door. You need an army of people just like what Scott does, spending from morning to noon to night, door to door to door, day after day, month after month, even year after year, mean, Scott Presler has, I don't know if he's kept a tally, a total tally of how many people that he's registered for the Republican Party, but it's got to be in the hundreds of thousands. And it's an absolutely crazy number. And that's really what the state of Texas needs. I think they just need a ground game. They need a door-to-door game. That's exactly what Democrats do. They just put in the brute force, and they just go from door to door, and they sign people up, and they remind people what the date is to go vote, make sure that they have everything they need to vote, and on and on. So this is from Scott Presler. Democrats are outvoting Republicans in early voting for the March 3rd primary. If Texas falls, the nation falls. 544,894 to 440,996. So this was at least a day ago, I think, because the updated numbers were larger than that. And then he also attaches Vote Hub. Through week 1 of early voting in Texas, the gap between Democratic and Republican primary ballots cast is widening at an accelerated pace. The current total changed from yesterday. Democrats 544,894, which is plus 132,723 against the GOP's 449,996, which is plus 75,936 from the day before. So maybe the Democrats just had a single day surge. For all we know, tomorrow, Republicans, they might just catch up in a massive rate. Maybe there could have been glitches or something. Perhaps there might have been an issue just in the system with regard to Republicans. Maybe there were some people that called in sick who were counting the votes. Who knows? I have no idea. I don't even know how things work in Texas with regard to early voting. I find it entirely possible that maybe something happened on the Republican side and maybe they just haven't caught up. Maybe they're just a little bit behind, not in the people who are voting. Maybe they're just a little bit behind in the total count. So anyway, that is happening. Definitely not good news. Definitely alarming if it turns out to remain. If they stay that far ahead, that is of great concern to the Republican Party, which is, look, I think if they nuke the filibuster, I think just that alone would just absolutely just cause a red tsunami, maybe to the likes that we've not seen for probably decades. I think it would just be that simple. If they nuke the filibuster and if they actually start rolling through the SAVE Act and everything else that needs to be rolled through, I think that the voters will turn out in just absolutely insane numbers. Because a lot of people are probably just they just don't have the spark right now. They don't have the motivation because Republicans, look, they're moving on some things, they're doing some things, they're talking a lot, that's for sure, but I just don't think that they're not doing a whole lot. They're not really convincing people that they need to go out there in large numbers and vote. I mean, Democrats are certainly giving Republicans plenty of reasons to go out and vote because the Democrats have lost their ever-loving minds. So anyway, this is going to come from Nick Sorter. We're just going to move on to the next topic. God help Texas if those numbers remain the same or if Democrats even accelerate further. From Nick Sorter, breaking: Republicans in Congress are beginning to call for Rep Tony Gonzalez to resign after messages were released of him pushing a female staffer for quote-unquote sexy pics and her quote-unquote favorite position before she allegedly Control-Alt deleted herself. Twice she told Gonzalez he was going too far, but he kept pushing anyway. This dude's a total creep. The people of Texas's 23rd district to send a message, overwhelmingly vote for Brandon Herrera, the AK guy. And this is the individual who's running against Rep Tony Gonzalez. If I can get it in frame here. There it is. Brandon Herrera. Let's see, 0702, licensed firearm manufacturer, business owner, constitutionalist, Second Amendment absolutist, congressional candidate, Texas District number 23. Definitely sounds like the right guy to be voting for, especially if he's a Second Amendment absolutist. So here is one of the image. We've got some details. We've got more text messages I'm going to get to. They redacted the names. Okay, whatever. Then send me a sexy pic. This is going too far, boss. And Lauren Boebert says to resign. So let's get into some of these text messages. Lots more text between Tony Gonzalez and now deceased staffer Regina Aviles. Is that her name? Aviles? In this thread here, pretty disturbing stuff. So let's start with the first one. It's really small. I'll do my best to read it here. Actually, let me do some microphone handiwork and move in a little closer. All right, so look, unfortunately, I can't zoom it in. X platform doesn't let me zoom it in. It just ain't gonna happen. It really sucks. I wish Elon Musk would figure that shit out because it's really frustrating. Okay, so it's all redacted. The names are redacted. Then send me a sexy pic. That's what this top one says. This was dated on May the 9th of 2024. And the same second one, same date. Let's see, priority normal. There's actually nothing here. So it just says delivered, read. Anyway, so underneath this from the recipient, and who was that from? Was that here? Let me just double check. Let me just make sure I got her name right. Let's see. Okay, all right, it is Regina. Okay, just making sure, because I saw that really small down here. It said Regina's iPhone mobile library SMS, and then some numbers and whatnot. So she says, I swear my life has been a telenovela for the past 7 days. You don't really want a hot picture of me. And here's another one. The next, it says, yes, I do. And then the next one after that says, hurry. And then she says, is this a test? And then after that, she texts again and says, no, I just don't like taking pictures of myself. And then he replies with, I'm just such a visual person. Sorry. And see what the last one is. Favorite position. And then she says, yours first, question mark. And then she said, so is that why you're quiet around me sometimes, because you think I'm hot? And then he replies, on top, pinning your legs. And that's it. It sounds like there was a lot of conversation cut out in between. I'm not accusing anybody of anything necessarily. I'm just saying that, that's kind of odd for her to say, is that why you're quiet around me, because you think I'm good looking? And then he just replies with, on top, pinning your legs. Okay, that's what they got here. Anyway, let's see. So this is going too far, boss. So how long have you thought I was this hot? And then he says, what do you like? It's really weird, man. It's almost like backwards. Since you worked at the chamber. And then he says ANAL. Not sure if I'm allowed to say that word, so I'll just spell it out for YouTube. And then she replies with never. And then there's nothing in that text message. So we'll move on to the next one. And then she said, this is too far, Tony. And then he said, what did you delete? And then she said, you shouldn't have read it. And then he says, true. And then the next one, it's 2 a.m. I'm slow. And then she says, go to sleep. Are you sure you're sober? No, dude, he's a Democrat. Come on, he ain't sober. At this time of night? No, of course not. So anyway, he says yes. He says he's sober. And next, let's see. It's 2 a.m. I'm slow. Okay, we already did that. Was that the last? Okay, no, here we go. And then she said, since you worked at the chamber. Okay, so she's replying to her own post by saying, please tell me you didn't just hire me because I was hot. And then he replied with no way. And it looks like that's where the text trail ends. And let me just double check. I'll just open this up and see if there's anything else down here. But I'm pretty sure I got everything. No, there's nothing else down there. And yeah, we did get that. Okay, so those are the text messages. That's what's been shared around. And it doesn't look too good. Hold on a second. The texts indicate multiple staffers in the office knew about the alleged affair. So this conversation instant message, just a heads up, this is Adrian Avilas, Regina's soon-to-be ex-husband. I just wanted to inform all of you that we will be getting a divorce after my discovery of text messages and pictures that she's been having an affair on me with your boss, Tony Gonzalez, for some time. Oh, shit. Feel free to reach out if you want more of an explanation. And that was on June 1st of 2024. Wow, dude, the plot thickens, man. And this post says the texts indicate multiple staffers in the office knew about the alleged affair because her ex-husband informed them. He's the one that let all of them know, obviously. And they've got the participants here. There's Regina, and it has owner in parentheses. And then after that, it's Alyssa Gulick, and then Brittany, Cesar Perito, Freddie A, Jalen Falcon, Jessica Marquez, Susan Lilly, and then TG. So I'm assuming those are all staffers. And let's see, what else we got here? So this is an article that's linked to this crazy story. Text from late staffers phone show Rep Gonzalez made explicit sexual requests. Do you think that he's going to be censured? Do you think he's going to get a slap on the wrist? Do you think anything at all is going to happen? No, of course not. But if this happened to a Republican, the Democrats would be demanding their head. They would be demanding them instantly be resigned. They would go through full impeachment proceedings. We would never hear the end of it until they are fully gone. But whenever it's a Democrat doing it, they just downplay it. They're like, we don't know what you're talking about. We didn't see any text message. No, nothing to see here. All right. So anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. Epstein files. Let's talk about the Epstein files. We shouldn't be focusing on these text messages. That's personal. We shouldn't be digging into their personal information. He didn't do anything wrong. She came on to him, actually. which is kind of convenient because now she's not here to defend herself. But anyway, so it says embattled Rep Tony Gonzalez, Republican of Texas. Oh shit, really? Republican? Okay, well then I stand corrected. I thought he was a Democrat. He's a Republican. Uh-oh. Hold on, let me go back. Let me just make sure that they, oh, wait, hold on. Yes, he is. Holy shit. Okay, so I am going to assume that Democrats are going to call for his head. Probably quite literally. So this, wow, man, that just got hot and heavy. Again, I'm obviously not from Texas, and I haven't memorized every single member in Congress yet. Like, how many is that? Like 530, or is it four? No, yeah, it is. It's like 535 or 537. I don't know. There's hundreds and hundreds of members of Congress, so I don't have all of them memorized yet, but I'm working on it. Yeah, I just assume because Democrats, they fool and fuck around so often, and they just do damn well whatever the hell they want. I just assumed he was a Democrat. So I guess in this instance, I judged a book by its cover. My apologies to the Democrats. This is a Republican who is engaged in this salacious behavior. Wow, man, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. All right, so let's read into this. He made explicit sexual requests to his late congressional staffer who repeatedly resisted, according to text messages obtained by 24 Site News from a forensic extraction of Santos Avila's phone conducted as part of an active legal claim by her widower's attorney. The messages add to a growing body of evidence of an alleged improper relationship, allegations Gonzalez denied as recently as last week. Santos Aviles died on September 14th of 2025 after sustaining injuries from a fire in her backyard in Uvalde. The county medical examiner determined her death was the result of self-immolation. Wow, man. The messages show the exchange beginning around midnight in May of 24 with Gonzalez asking Santos Aviles to send him a sexy pic. She deflected, writing that her life has been a telenovela for the past 7 days and that he didn't really want a hot picture of her. Of course, we already read all the text messages. As the conversation continued, Gonzalez asked about sexual preferences and positions. Did you hire me because of my appearance? And Gonzalez, a married father of 6, represents a southern border district. Santos Aviles was also married and the mother of a young child. Attorney Bobby Barrera, who represents Santos Aviles' widower, Adrian Aviles, said in an interview last week that the power dynamics between Gonzalez and Santos point to improper coercion. Quote, what one person may say is a simple question, someone else may interpret as coercion, because guess what? It's coming from your boss requesting that you do something that is not particularly proper, as in send him pictures or meet him at particular locations. Yeah, dude, what the hell is wrong with him, man? What the hell is wrong with all of these people? They just let their power get to their head, and they just eventually, I guess, just assume they could just do whatever the hell they want. A former Gonzalez staffer who worked alongside Santos Aviles in the district and who spoke on the condition of anonymity told 24 Site News last Monday that Santos Aviles had confided in them about the alleged relationship. The source said they were the only other staffer based with Santos Aviles from June 2024 until her death and described themselves as a person closest to her in the office. She told me everything, the source said. Regina always told me that he came onto her first. Multiple sources have also claimed that there was a toxic work environment within the Gonzalez office. 24 Site News spoke with 2 former female staffers who said they received text messages from Gonzalez that, while not overtly sexual, made them uncomfortable during the course of their employment. Well, drop the text messages, man. Let the public decide. Another individual close to the Santos family who spoke directly with her told 24 Site News in October that the late staffer had confided in them about the alleged relationship. She said, I need your advice. I really screwed up, the individual said. It's a very tragic situation because, in my opinion, Tony took advantage of a young woman without regard for the consequences. The former district staffer also told 24 Site News that during Gonzalez's 2024 runoff campaign, Gonzalez and Santos allegedly made at least 2 visits to a rental cabin in Conkin, Texas, owned by the staffer's family, arranged as a place for the congressman to rest between campaign events. The source asserted they were not aware of the alleged relationship at the time. I ended up setting up the whole thing. In hindsight, it's embarrassing because they used it as a place to hook up. I just accidentally facilitated it. The former staffer also alleged that Gonzalez leveraged his position to advance Santos Aviles, selecting her community projects for federal funding and elevating her profile above other regional staff. He definitely used his power and his position in the office to coerce her. The source continued, he put her on a pedestal and he got something out of it. The Daily Mail first reported allegations of a relationship between Gonzalez and Santos Aviles in October of 25. Barrera told 24/7 News last week that the alleged relationship came to light around June of 24 when Aviles discovered evidence that Gonzalez and Santos had allegedly spent time together in the weeks prior. Barrera said the discovery of the alleged affair strained the marriage. Let's see what else we got. June 1st, Adrian Aviles sent a text message from his wife's phone. Okay, we did read that. Santos Aviles had no documented history of mental health struggles before the alleged relationship began. Let's see. Statement of CNN. Gonzalez called the allegations political smears orchestrated by his opponent. Okay, so this is from Rep Gonzalez. Miss Santos Aviles was a kind soul who devoted her life to making the community a better place. Her efforts led to improvements in school safety, healthcare, and rural water like never before. It's shameful that Brandon Herrera is using a disgruntled former staffer to smear her memory and score political points, conveniently pushing this out of the very day early voting started. I'm not going to engage in these personal smears and instead will remain focused on helping President Trump secure the border and improve the lives of all Texans. Well, yeah, the timing is quite interesting, but you know what, dude? That's politics. That's why you don't engage in any cheating, any infidelity, especially you shouldn't be banging your staffers, dude. I mean, come on, man. Of course it's gonna be the timing. Why wouldn't they make it about the timing? That's how you play politics. When Gonzalez posted to X on February 19th claiming he will not be blackmailed and that people were profiting politically and financially off a tragic death. Aviles responded directly writing, "We have never blackmailed anyone. What we've seen instead is a consistent pattern of evasion, refusal to take accountability, and outright lies to protect your image. You're a classic case of a two-faced politician who says whatever is convenient to save face." Yeah, sounds like a politician. Aviles also addressed Gonzalez's call for full release of the Uvalde police report, saying the decision to withhold it had nothing to do with protecting the congressman and everything to do with protecting his son. We chose to hold back the full police report and body cam footage for one reason only. It shows my wife suffering severe burns in horrific detail. I will not allow that graphic material to become accessible to our 8-year-old in the future when he's old enough to search for or come across it. Nothing in that police report protects you. That decision is about protecting our child's well-being, not concealing anything improper. Well, they blur all of that out anyway. If there's ever a body on camera or if there's like any kind of graphic material of any kind, they always blur that out. I mean, I've seen tons of body cam footage over the years, and that's pretty routine that they would do that. But look, it sounds like it's at his discretion, although I'm not sure if I would personally agree with that. That sounds like a Freedom of Information Act thing. But anyway, so any claim of extortion implies that he actually did something wrong and that we want money to keep our mouths shut, he told CBS News. And let's see, but what he's failed to acknowledge is that he had this affair. It shocks the conscience that he would do this, with the exception that he's trying to play the victim once again. So anyway, it goes on a little bit longer, but I think we got the basics out of it at the very least. So yeah, man, that's going on, and it's apparently it's not new. The reason why it's coming up again is because early voting's happening in Texas right now. So they're dredging up that story again, even though it sounds like it broke around the fall of last year. And of course it will, especially if these text messages were just recently released. And I mean, if his opponent got his hands on those text messages, well, of course he waited for this time, because that's just how you play the game. Okay, so let's move on to the next from Colin Rugg. Breaking: former UK ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, has been arrested over his alleged relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. According to the newly released Epstein files, Mandelson was passing confidential government memos to Epstein. Quote, officers have arrested a 72-year-old man on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was arrested at an address in Camden on Monday, 23 February, and has been taken to a London police station for interview, Metropolitan Police said in a statement. Let's take a look.
No mistake about it, Mark. This is a seismic moment, not only for Peter Mandelson, but for British politics as a whole.
More dominoes are falling in Great Britain.
The man that you can see in the pictures was the British
Makes you wonder, when are they going to start arresting people here?
One of the maybe half dozen most powerful figures.
I think the Democrats would agree with me on that.
Personally appointed
the American
by Keir Starmer against elements even of his
Redact
own
the names,
better
Pam
judgment,
Bondi.
persuaded of it, we believe, by his then chief of staff.
Unredact the names,
Morgan
Unredact the names.
because he was thought to be the only man who could bridge.
And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, there's been quite a few emails that the press and other people have been digging through the Epstein files, the millions of pages that have been released by the DOJ. There's quite a few emails out there where they redacted the names of the person sending the email to Jeffrey Epstein, and they were talking about some really sick, twisted stuff, talking about extremely young, children. I'll just keep it just as simple as possible. describing children and how they were fantastic the night before, and I can't wait to come back out, just like really sick, disgusting stuff. And the DOJ redacted those names. They're clearly not victims. These are clearly the people that are perpetrating these crimes, and the DOJ has them redacted. And it's not just 2 or 3 emails. There's dozens of them that are like that clearly show people who were committing crimes with Jeffrey Epstein, and they were communicating back and forth, talking about how wonderful of a time they had, and we don't have any of their names. Why the hell not? I don't know. But, I mean, of course, Democrats are demanding it. A lot of people have been paying attention to the Epstein files. They're demanding it too, because I'm pretty sure the Epstein Files Transparency Act does not allow for them to redact the names of anybody else other than the victims.
The divide with Donald Trump's White House after the US president returned to the White House for the second time. Peter Mandelson believed to be the only person who could help Britain and sort out its trading and relationship with the US
that body
at this
camera.
tricky time today.
You got body cams on suits over in Great Britain
by police. Peter Mandelson has denied any wrongdoing, but I suspect there will be a lot of focus on those emails that we heard so much about. Emails from the last time Gordon Brown was in the British government, when Peter Mandelson was in the British government, when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister. Peter Mandelson, then Business Secretary, alleged to have forwarded emails, that's what the Epstein emails suggested, forwarded emails to Jeffrey Epstein, potentially containing confidential government material. The allegation that he tipped off Jeffrey Epstein about an impending EU bailout, and that he notified the financier about the activities of the British government and gave advice to big US bankers to mildly threaten the then UK Chancellor, the late Alistair Darling. All of those things likely to come under scrutiny. Peter Mandelson, not a figure shy of controversy, forced to resign from the British government twice when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, once over a home loan scandal, once over his relationship with the Hinduja brothers. But this challenge facing Lord Mandelson is now of a different order, with the police now, Metropolitan Police now arresting him. It will go, I think the political ramifications of this will go to the very heart of Downing Street, because once again the focus will be on Keir Starmer's decision to appoint somebody with a track record as checkered as Peter Mandelson's politically, with those 2 resignations in knowledge that there was a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that went after his conviction for relations with minors back in 2009, a relationship that possibly involved taking hospitality from Jeffrey Epstein in the early 2010s. All of that was known to Keir Starmer at the moment that he appointed him the British ambassador to Washington. The question that Labour MPs will and are asking is why take such a risk? Is it really the case that Peter Mandelson was the only person who could solve the conundrum of the UK relationship with Washington, particularly given that there was a talented incumbent in Karen Pierce already occupying that office, but she ended up being hurried out of the British residency in Washington to make way for Peter Mandelson, because he was seen by Keir Starmer and his then Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, as the only answer to the political question that Donald Trump's second presidency posed. And yet that has turned out to look like a political misjudgment by the Prime Minister, who will now, like the rest of us, be watching these pictures.
Okay, so that's the latest, man. The plot thickens with the Epstein files, and it says that they're searching his address, so I don't know if they're going to uncover anything else. They might find other actors involved, maybe not, because it's the UK, so there might be evidence, there might be documents, maybe even photos that we may not be aware of that may have not turned up in any of the Epstein court cases or the Ghislaine Maxwell case or anything. So I guess we'll see how that develops. But yeah, man, dude's been arrested. Peter Mandelson. Okay, so we got this from President Trump. The Supreme Court will be using lowercase letters for a while based on a complete lack of respect of the United States accidentally and unwittingly gave me as President of the United States far more powers and strength than I had prior to their ridiculous, dumb, and very internationally divisive ruling. For one thing, I can use licenses to do absolutely terrible things to foreign countries, especially those countries that have been ripping us off for many decades, but incomprehensibly, according to the ruling, can't charge them a license fee. But all licenses charge fees. Why can't the United States do so? You do a license to get a fee. The opinion doesn't explain that, but I know the answer. The court has also approved all other tariffs, of which there are many, and they can all be used in a much more powerful and obnoxious way with legal certainty than the tariffs as initially used. Our competent Supreme Court did a great job for the wrong people. Notice how he lowercase Supreme Court. And for that, they should be ashamed of themselves, but not the great three. The next thing you know, they will rule in favor of China and others who are making an absolute fortune on birthright citizenship by saying the 14th Amendment was not written to take care of the babies of slaves, which it was, as proven by the exact timing of its construction, filing, and ratification, which perfectly coincided with the end of the Civil War. How much better can you do than that? But this Supreme Court, lowercase, will find a way to come to the wrong conclusion, one that again will make China and various other nations happy and rich. Let our Supreme Court keep making decisions that are so bad and deleterious to the future of our nation. I have a job to do. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. I'm not sure really how to make what to make of this. I mean, maybe he's fine. He's being met perhaps with roadblocks, maybe with certain tariffs that he's looking at implementing against China. I don't think so. But maybe, I don't know, maybe they're just exploring things, and maybe certain tariffs that he might be looking to slap on China may have to go through a bit of a more lengthy process than he would like to go through. Honestly, not sure. But anyway, I'm sure he's going to keep us updated almost constantly with regard to the process of the tariffs, which I would be appreciative of because I want to know what's going on. And from the White House, President Donald J. Trump signs a proclamation declaring February 22nd, 2026 as National Angel Family Day. We remember the American lives stolen from us, stand with angel families, and recommit to the largest mass deportation effort in our nation's history. And he says here in this message, on National Angel Family Day, we remember and honor the thousands of American lives stolen from us by criminal illegal aliens and the deadly drugs they bring across our borders. We stand with the angel families, many of whom continue to be left without justice, and we recommit to carrying out the largest mass deportation effort in our nation's history, getting the worst of the worst out of our country and putting a stop to the violence targeting the brave men and women of law enforcement. So I have some clips that we're going to go through, starting with this one. The president, in just a few moments, I'll officially sign a proclamation that I've been waiting to sign for a long time. February 22nd is going to be National Angel Family Day.
In just a few moments, I officially sign a proclamation that I've been waiting to sign for a long time, including my first administration. There were so many different legal roadblocks, it was incredible. We got it done, and I'm doing it today. February 22nd is going to be National Angel Family Day.
Okay, so for the record, today is not the 22nd. Today is the 23rd. And I've checked my calendar at least 2 or 3 times just to confirm, triple checking, even though I know it's the 23rd today. However, these are all posted today, so he definitely gave this speech today, but for some reason they declared the 22nd yesterday as this day. So I don't understand, why he wouldn't have just declared it as February 23rd. I don't think that it's a typo, because not only did they type it into the message, into the post, but he also declared it at the podium. So it's February 22nd. So just in case if you're wondering, I don't know, I'm kind of wondering the same thing, but anyway, let's continue.
Very important. So many incredible family members and friends, parents and children. On February 22nd, 2 years ago, a brilliant 22-year-old nursing student named Laken
Riley. Okay, well, that explains it then, because on February 22nd, that's when she was unfortunately ended.
Hope Riley went out for a run on a college campus in Georgia. Laken was viciously attacked, brutally beaten and murdered by an illegal alien gang member who the last administration heartlessly released into our country. No problems. Let them in. They let in everybody. They didn't check anybody. They let in everybody. Among
Emptied
the
out their
first
prisons
bills I signed into
and their mental
law
hospitals.
after taking office last year was the
Just
Laken
like Castro
Riley
in the
Act.
80s.
I'm so proud of it. To ensure illegal alien criminals are rapidly removed from the United States of America. If that's okay with the media. That bill has already been really playing a big role in the life of our country. It's resulted in over 21,000 illegal alien arrests, 21,000.
Look, it's a good number. It's a big number. 5-digit numbers worth of arrests is great. There needs to be more. There needs to be a lot more, and there's going to be a lot more. I'm sure of that. And the president participates in an Angel Families Remembrance ceremony. Everyone in this room not only suffered an infinite loss, there were the victims of politicians who put the comfort of foreign criminals before the safety of American citizens and American patriots.
We gathered here today for a truly solemn occasion. Throughout this hall, I am joined by heartbroken Americans who have lost parents, siblings, children, grandchildren, and treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration led in by the past administration. Millions and millions of people from jails, millions and millions of people from countries that we don't want to know about.
All over the world. They were flown in under the cover of darkness, for crying out loud. Landed in international airports all across the country. Every night, night after night after night after night. They were flying them in from Africa, from Asia, probably East Europe, probably throughout Europe. They were flying them in from all over the world.
Dealers, murderers, 11,888 murderers were allowed into our country by the Biden administration.
The Democrats.
The angel families that we love, that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored, and I've seen it.
Yeah, they did.
When I first got involved with the angel families, I had a meeting. It was so sad. And they got up and spoke, and the media literally just turned off the cameras. They didn't want to hear them. That was my first glimpse as to what was happening.
Yeah, it got to the point where the mainstream media was calling them undocumented American migrants because they came from the Americas, whether if it's Central America or South America. So they justified calling them undocumented American migrants.
Sick people.
For fuck's sakes.
They cover stories like that, or they don't cover them, which is worse. Everyone in this room not only suffered an infinite loss, they were the victims of politicians who put the comfort of foreign criminals before the safety of American citizens and American
they still do.
patriots.
Democrats still do.
Stories were censored and suppressed like maybe almost never before, so that the politicians could open our borders and allow our nation to be invaded. If we didn't win the election, our nation would right now be destroyed.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, they wouldn't have closed up shit. Absolutely not, man. How many illegals do you think would be in the country if Kamala Harris won? I don't think anybody would want to fathom. But one thing's for sure, they would have not closed up shit. I mean, we'd probably be looking at, what, 70, 80 million by now? Just constantly pouring in. All right, so rapid response. The president honors angel families at the White House. We're willing to tell the story that the news doesn't want to hear, the Democrats don't want to hear. We want to stop murderers and criminals from coming into our country. We appreciate the bravery of everybody in this room.
We're willing to tell the story, and that I don't know why the news doesn't want to hear it. The Democrats don't want to hear it. The radical left, they don't want to hear it. What's not to hear? We want to stop murderers and criminals from coming into our country. I watched the mayor of Minneapolis. I watch these people saying, we want to protect murderers. I don't get it. It's something sick. They're sick. You can't have a country like that. So we appreciate the bravery of everybody in this room, actually. We're willing to tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he's right. They might not be saying that verbatim, but that's absolutely what they're conveying, that they put illegals, criminal illegals, or everyday illegal immigrants, regardless. They're illegal, and they're putting them first above their own constituency. And a lot of those people who voted for him, they're perfectly fine with it. It's absolutely ludicrous. Okay, from the White House. 2 years ago, Laken Riley was brutally murdered while jogging on a college campus by a criminal illegal alien who should not have been in this country. President Trump remembers her and all angel families by proclaiming February 22nd as National Angel Family Day.
Everyone in this room not only suffered an infinite loss, they were the victims of politicians who put the comfort of foreign criminals before the safety of American citizens and American patriots. Their stories were censored and suppressed like maybe almost never before, so that the politicians could open our borders and allow our nation to be invaded. If we didn't win the election, our nation would right now be destroyed. February 22nd is going to be National Angel Family Day. Very important. So many incredible family members and friends, parents and children.
Okay, well, there was a little bit of a repeat, but that's okay. These are the highlights, so I didn't want to skip over anything if he had added to it. Allison Phillips, whose daughter, 22-year-old Lincoln Riley, was killed by an illegal alien while she was out for a run. And then they've got a quote from her, so we'll just hear it from her mother.
I think that a lot of people feel like that President Trump is maybe different than the version I've gotten to know. And I just can't thank you enough. You have said from the beginning, literally the day after this happened, that you would not forget about Laken. You weren't president at that time, and you have not forgotten.
No, nobody has.
You have fought a fight that most people would not want to have to fight. Most people wouldn't. They would just say it's just easier not to do this. And President Trump you are doing a thankless job that most people just wouldn't do. And I just can't thank you enough. There are just not enough words to say. Because if you've lived the nightmare that we have lived, you understand the importance of the job that he's doing and securing our nation and fighting for our families, because this could be any family. This happened to my family. This could be any one of your families. And Laken was the most responsible, hardworking, kind, selfless, beautiful Christian. And she wasn't somebody that put herself in bad positions. She didn't make bad choices. She was just a good girl. And she just wanted to go for a run that morning after she'd gotten up at 4 o'clock the morning before to decorate her roommate's door for her birthday. And she did everything for everyone else. She expected nothing in return. She just wanted to be a good friend and a good sister and a good daughter and a hardworking nurse. She was working so hard for. And I'm beyond blessed and thankful that you're honoring not just Laken, because she's one in a ton of people that have suffered at the hands of illegal immigrants. She's not the only one. And so thank you for honoring all of them, not just Laken. And we're just beyond grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Man, it's just awful. It's just devastating. You know, as a parent, I cannot even imagine. And I understand what she's saying. Like, she's not, her family, I'm sure, wasn't high profile. They probably didn't live in some like fancy upscale place or anything. They're probably just some everyday average middle class family. And she's right. It really could happen to anybody. It's just absolutely just horrific and devastating. And that was really cool that she actually mentioned all of the other families of everyone who was lost, because Laken Riley, she's of course, at the top of the list when it comes to remembering those who were killed by illegal immigrants. And, that was nice and very selfless to say. But yeah, man, like she said, President Trump, he didn't have to fight this fight. And, it's extremely noble for him to do. Okay, so we've got this one from Steve Ronnebeck, whose 21-year-old son Grant was shot and killed while working at an Arizona convenience store.
I spent some time with President Trump in his first election. President Trump talked about Grant even before he was elected in 2016. And finally, we had hope. We had hope that it was going to end. I was just talking to Secretary Noem that we all sat around a table one day during one of our visits to Washington. And again, the word preventable came up. All these deaths at the hands of illegal immigrants are preventable. They could have been stopped. We could have done so much more, unfortunately, at the hands of an election that we question. Somebody took their foot off the brakes and put their foot on the accelerator to let these people into our country. And it wasn't just regular people, it was criminals, it was murderers, killers, rapists. And now today, we are finally going to see that somebody's going to remember all of our loved ones. They're going to remember the names, and they're going to remember what we've all been through. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, and we've got another one. Let's see. So Palm Beach County, Florida, police officer and former NYPD officer, he personally arrested Jose Ibarra for endangering the welfare of a child. A few months later, I saw his face again in the news after he viciously murdered Laken Riley. I did my job. I put him in custody. The system failed. No detainer, no accountability, no deportation, and an innocent American life was taken. If you enter the country illegally, there will be consequences under this administration.
Mr. President, it's an honor to be here today, and it's an honor to be speaking with you guys. My name is Ethan Carreri. I'm a police officer in Palm Beach County, Florida, and a former New York City police officer. While serving the New York City Police Department, I personally arrested Jose Ibarra for endangering the welfare of a child. A few months later, I saw his face again in the news after he viciously murdered Laken Riley. I did my job. I put him in custody. The system failed. No detainer, no accountability, no deportation, and an innocent American life was taken. If you enter our country illegally, there will be consequences under this administration. The American citizens must always come first. To Laken Riley's family, your loss should have never happened. We owe it to you and every American family to enforce our laws, secure our border, and protect innocent lives. Mr. President, thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you for all you've done for our country. Thank you. Mr.
Wow,
President,
man. Just absolutely wild. Just unbelievable. Okay, so the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she said with regard to this, CNN spends much of their time attacking the Trump administration's strict immigration policies, but they will never air stories like this, which are the reason our strict enforcement policies are happening in the first place. She is absolutely correct. And we've got another one from the White House. Jody Jones, who lost his beloved brother Rocky, shot and killed in cold blood by an illegal alien, speaks out with raw emotion.
Well, I have this speech, but I'm not going to give it. What I'm going to tell you is from my heart. I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, first of all, before I do anything. I want to thank the American Border Story, and I absolutely want to thank President Donald J. Trump. Thank you, sir, for putting America first and putting these angel families first and letting everybody know their stories, because we matter. Thank you, sir. My brother Rocky Jones was murdered by a criminal illegal alien. He was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time. This man was arrested, released, and within 24 hours, he went on a shooting spree in Central California. Unfortunately, my brother was in the wrong place at the wrong time. This man shot my brother 8 times at point-blank range. Wow. I pray that no other family has to go through that. Unfortunately, they will. And just know, President Trump, I want you to know, no matter what the fake media says about you, the American people love you, and we will support you all the time, because we love you. I'm sick and tired of hearing these Democratic politicians stand up on these podiums and say how sorry they are for seeing these criminal illegal aliens being ripped apart from their families. What about us?
Right.
What about the American family? What about us? We mean something too. And this man right here understands it. I was listening to Grandma Cook, and she said thank you to President Trump. And I love that lady. I don't even know her. I just heard her. I just got the fire inside of me. I'm like, wow, that's an American. I love America. I want you guys to understand this. Americans are not racist. We're not xenophobic because we want a safe America and we want to put Americans first. This man's not racist because he wants to put Americans first. Are you kidding me?
No, if anything, we're too compassionate. I mean, absolutely. Too caring, too compassionate. That's why we have an immigration system in the first place. I'm sure we let in more immigrants legally than probably any other country in the world. Maybe I'm wrong, but I somehow doubt that I'm wrong. And then we finally have this one. The president signs the presidential proclamation proclaiming February 22nd, 2026 as National Angel Family Day.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You take care of yourself. You can hold that. At least for a little while before.
I'm not taking
Yeah, before they take it. Yeah, before they file it away. And from the White House, we've got the entire one. This is going to, or the entire video. This is from the White House's account, and it's about an hour in length. I'll repost this. There's a direct link to my profile down below in the description, or you can just go to @WhiteHouse over on the X platform. You can just go to the search, and then there's a little search bar at the top. When you click on that, just type in White House. It'll take you straight there. And this was 11 hours as of this recording, so it was at about 10:30 in the morning today. So if you want to go down there and have a look at that. And this is going to be from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Time to move on to, well, actually, no, this is them also honoring the victims of those who were killed by illegal immigrants. So thousands of American families have been torn apart because of criminal illegal alien violence. American citizens marred and murdered by those who have no right to be in our country. This is who we fight for. This is our why. And look, there are thousands, even hundreds. It's still an appalling number. And the Democrats keep screaming about 2 people that were killed by ICE agents, which, look, even conservatives will say that never should have happened in the first place either. You know, nobody is shouting from the rooftops in joy that happened at all. Quite the opposite. I mean, your average conservative or Republican will say that those 2 people, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, that were killed, should not have been killed in the first, not at all. Shouldn't have even been there in the first place. Shouldn't have been causing trouble. Shouldn't have done anything of the sort. And nobody's happy about that either. But that doesn't hold a candle to the thousands of people that have been killed or had their lives severely disrupted because a whole bunch of criminals, countless thousands of criminals, came into the country. All right, so let's move on to the next. We're going to get into the weeds with Mexico, man. Shit is getting crazy in Mexico. I don't know if it's died down at all, but once you hear the statement from the president, it doesn't sound like this is going to die down at all. I could not believe what she said. And we're going to get to that here before we watch some of these videos of what's coming out of Mexico. It is mind-blowing if you haven't seen it yet. So this is from Christopher Landau, and he's the Deputy Secretary of State and the ambassador to Mexico. And he says, I've just been informed that Mexican security forces have killed El Mencho, one of the bloodiest and most ruthless drug kingpins. This is a great development for Mexico, the U.S., Latin America, and the world. The good guys are stronger than the bad guys. And then he finishes it up with a bunch of Spanish, which I can't read. But he says, P.S. I'm watching the scenes of violence from Mexico with great sadness and concern. It's not surprising that the bad guys are responding with terror, but we must never lose our nerve. Animo Mexico. And that was from 2:10 yesterday, and the initial post was at 2:07. Okay, so he did a PS like minutes after. So, yeah, because things got quite crazy in Mexico. So let's go to the next one. Travel Gov. This is just 4 hours ago. So this is the update from today. Multiple airlines are operating from Guadalajara and from Puerto Vallarta as of the afternoon of February 23rd. Confirm that your flight is on track for departure from Guadalajara or Puerto Vallarta before you depart for the airport. If your flight to the United States is canceled, you may be able to book a connecting flight through another Mexican city. We have no reports of road closures directed by local authorities, although some roads in Jalisco state, including between Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta, are not yet fully reopened. More at mx.usembassy.gov. And I'll have that linked below in the description because, you know, a lot of Americans, a lot of us travel to Mexico. I've been to Mexico twice, and it's an awesome place. It's a really cool place. Okay, so let's start getting into it. From William, at least they aren't burning cars and blocking streets while waving foreign flags in the USA. Yeah, never mind, because, yeah, that's totally happening here, too. So just an offhand comment trying to make a comparison of the bullshit that the far leftists are doing here. And this says, never forget the Democrats allowed for a wide open border, allowing the cartels unlimited presence in America. Public streets are blocked due to burning cars, and car bombings are happening all across Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, because of cartel violence. And where do you think they got all their money from? From flowing tons of drugs and human trafficking into the United States, thanks in part to the open border by the Biden administration. So let's look at this. Another car on fire. Multiples. So I'm assuming that they positioned the cars in the middle of the street and then set them on fire just to block the roadway, just to wreak havoc. And let's go to the next one. Total media blackout in 7 Mexican provinces. CJNG is burning various buildings and vehicles, blocking roads. Additionally, more than 20 branches of the state bank Blanco del Bienestar were burned in Jalisco itself. And it's not a video, it's just an image showing one of the banks that's on fire. And we've got the next one from Terra Bull. This is from earlier today. Breaking fires rage in the streets of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, as cartels burn cars in the city. Just kidding. This is Gavin Newsom's California last summer. Oh, no, really? Okay. All right, fine. I got trolled. But anyway, we'll watch it anyway. We got it in front of me. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. This might as well be Mexico because it looks exactly the same as to what's going on or what was happening over the weekend, which I'm sure it's still continuing. Yeah, that's a Waymo. That's obviously California, but look, you can't even fucking tell, man. In fact, I'm glad that I got trolled. I'm glad that I put this in the middle of this because, yeah, you really honestly can't tell. But okay, so let's get back to the real Mexican footage from America in case you needed a reminder why border security is important and why we shouldn't allow 10 million people to come across the border unvetted. I mean, I've heard much higher numbers than that. The official number that I keep hearing from the government is 15 million, but of course it could be up to 20, 30, 40, God knows how many. So unvetted, this is Mexico right now. Insane, dude. Yeah, man, freaking yikes. And there's more. There's more. The people doing this to Mexico today are the same people ICE agents are trying to deport from the U.S. Be more grateful to your government, liberals. Seen up on a high rise. Yeah, a lot of fires breaking out. And this one, pray for Mexico. Here's another one. Yeah, and all that because they killed a cartel boss. I mean, all this just absolute nightmare. Expecting to see more of this in Mexico over the coming days. Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that once we hear from the president, which is coming up next. So let's watch this first. Damn! Ay, caramba. Wow, man, they lit them up. All right, so here we go. Open source intel. Mexican president said using force against cartels would breach human rights. Quote, returning to the war against the narco is not an option. First, because it is outside the framework of the law. So, of course, she's going to speak in Spanish. Fortunately, they've got English subtitles, so let's read it.
La guerra contra el narco no es opción. No es opción. Primero, porque está fuera del marco de la ley. Todos estos de la derecha que se llenan la boca de las palabras Estado de Derecho y defienden la guerra contra el narco. La guerra contra el narco está fuera de la ley porque, como lo dije o lo he dicho en varias ocasiones, es permiso para matar, sin ningún juicio.
What about arresting them? Asshole.
Y eso en México nadie o muy poquitos están de acuerdo. Está fuera del marco de la ley. Y segundo, no sirvió de nada más que para aumentar los homicidios en México y el nivel de violencia. Entonces, estos llamados autoritarios, porque son autoritarios, es ir hacia el fascismo.
It's going towards fascism. So is she going to do anything? You going to do fuck all about what's going on? Or are you just going to let him just keep running wild? I mean, look, I don't think anybody's asking. Well, yeah, maybe there are a lot of people that are calling for the Mexican forces to step in and just start mowing them all down. But how about you at least, I don't know, try to arrest them? And if they open fire on them, then return fire? I don't know. So it doesn't sound like they're going to get a whole lot of help from the Mexican government, it would seem. But perhaps I'm wrong. I don't know. I guess only time will tell. But I'll keep an eye out for it if anything else comes out from Mexico. If things get worse or if any kind of bombshell information or any big updates, then I'll share it on the Swamp this week. From it, U.S. Senator John Fetterman, the Coast Guard saved an injured man from the wilderness and isn't even getting paid. I voted to pay those heroes. Shutting DHS down has no functionality on ICE or any reforms. It only hurts our workers and America loses. And then he shares this headline from I think it's from the Oregonian. I think that's what it is. Public safety watches Coast Guard rescues injured rafter missing for days in the Oregon wilderness. Not sure if he actually links it or not. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. No, I don't see it that it's linked, but I'll take his word for it. I'm sure that they did. And the Coast Guard, every day they're out there working, saving lives, stopping the flow of drugs into the country. And yeah, right now they're not receiving a paycheck, thanks to the Democrats. Homeland Security, absolute insanity. Gavin Newsom pardoned an illegal alien convicted of attempted murder. Sambun Faimani lost his green card following his conviction for attempted murder and assault with a firearm. Following the conviction, he was placed on removal proceedings and issued a final order of removal by a judge. Gavin Newsom's pardon took away this attempted murderous qualifying convictions that made him removable from the U.S. By protecting criminal illegal aliens like Faimani, Gavin Newsom is putting the lives of all Americans at risk. So it sounds like they're not gonna extradite him or deport him or anything like that. Sounds like they're just gonna let him stay in California. A full pardon. Unbelievable. Look, I don't know anything about this case or anything. I have no idea. So I don't want to be too quick to make any rash judgments. But I mean, I do hold the Department of Homeland Security to some high esteem. That I'm sure that they know what they're talking about. They would know the case a lot better than I would, and they sound quite appalled by it, so sounds appalling to me. And from Eric Daugherty, holy smokes, Governor Gavin Newsom just pardoned an illegal alien who was convicted for attempted murder and assault with a firearm. How low can this snake go? Thanks to Governor Newsom's pardon, this alien may now reopen immigration proceedings rather than be removed from the U.S. It will be able to remain in California communities, DHS said. You're sick and depraved, Gavin Newsom. This guy needs to lose 2028 in a landslide. And that is the subject in question. Attempted murderer, and was given a full pardon from the Executive Department, State of California. signed by Governor Gavin Newsom. And let me just see if I can read the bottom. So, therefore, I, Gavin Newsom, Governor of the State of California, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and statutes of the State of California, do hereby grant to Sambun Faimeni a full and unconditional pardon after he, had attempted murder. So, on October 21st, what is that, 1997, I think it says? Yeah, I think it says that. The Superior Court of California, County of San Diego, sentenced Mr. Faimeni to 14 years to life for attempted murder, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, assault with a firearm, and a conspiracy to commit assault with a firearm, plus 2 years of enhancements. He was 19 years old at the time, and it said he submitted a formal application for executive clemency in the form of a gubernatorial pardon. He has... he has provided evidence, I think it says, that he is living in upright, and this, I don't know, man, this is really hard to read. It's really blurry. Yeah, I don't know, disenfranchised? I'm not sure. His fitness, civic rights, responsibilities, like basically he's been a model prisoner, and he's just going to give him a full pardon because he's just been on his best behavior ever since. So I guess according to Governor Newsom, he did enough time. It's time for him to get out. He's okay. He can get a full unconditional pardon. And of course, Governor Newsom knew that if he was to give him a full unconditional pardon, that he can remain in the state of California and he won't be immediately deported. All right, so Homeland Security, what the media won't tell you, this woman was banned from our country for 10 years for violating terms of her visa. And then they have some facts. And let me see if there's anything in addition. Okay, all right. I was just making sure that, because sometimes they reply to a post that was already made. Usually I'd rather do that first. But anyway, let's see what these facts are. So Karen Newton has violated the laws of our nation and overstayed her visa waiver admission for almost 4 years after visiting her spouse. Her husband, William Newton, also broke the law for nearly 20 years by overstaying an H-1B visa. The Biden administration granted her a tourist visa, and she traveled to the U.S. under this visa and was led into our nation. When she and her husband attempted to cross the Canadian border, they did not have proper paperwork for their vehicle and were denied entry into Canada. During her inspection, re-entering the U.S., she was unable to provide clear details about her situation, including her husband's legal status. Giving her history of overstays, her husband's unlawful presence, and the vehicle documentation issues, officers determined scrutiny and detention were warranted under the law, and she was detained. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement don't go to the U.S., not with Trump in charge. The U.K. tourist with a valid visa detained by ICE for 6 weeks. Karen Newton was in America on the trip of a lifetime when she was shackled, transported, and held for weeks on end. With tourism to the U.S. under increasing strain, she says, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. Look, I'm not all too broken up about Canadians not traveling to America. I think most of it is by choice. I think like a lot of people are just boycotting because everything's just so hyper political these days. I will say though, over the last couple of winters, I've seen very few Canadian license plates where I live, which we have a pretty heavy Canadian presence here during the winter time where I live, and it's been quite nice in traffic because Canadians drive extremely slow. My opinion, they see our speed limit where it says 45. They must assume just in the back of their mind that it's kilometers an hour, not miles an hour. So they're all creeping down the road going like 30 effing miles an hour. It's very frustrating. So it's kind of been nice not to have a ton of Canadians down here. Plus, it sucks getting Canadian change randomly from like the gas station because nobody takes Canadian money. So, you can, by accident, not even by accident, sometimes they'll just dump it into your change and you don't even catch it, drive through or what have you. But as soon as you get any kind of Canadian currency, it's useless. It's just completely pointless. All right, so libs of TikTok, absolutely terrifying. We need to purge the entire trucking industry of illegals who don't speak English and understand our road signs. Biden fast-tracked their CDLs, and now they're out on the roads killing Americans. Adam B. Coleman, proud father and imperfect man. Shocking. Fake trucking companies hiding in apartments and P.O. boxes are putting illegal immigrant drivers behind the wheel of big rigs, hauling your mail, Amazon packages, and even military cargo. I went on the ground in Philly with Super Trucker to expose these chameleon carriers. So this is long, so I'm going to repost it just right off the bat. So if you want to check that out, again, link in my description down below to my profile, or you can go to @wrong_speak. He'll have that there. But either way, if you just go to my profile, this is going to be directly on his anyway. I just provide that just as a more convenient, quicker way to get to it. But at least I'll play at least a couple of minutes and we'll see where it goes.
Investigating what we call chameleon carriers and shady carriers within the trucking industry. And how they operate is that they often use different locations, maybe a residential area with fake addresses. They might use an office building with mailboxes and things of that nature, even though regulations show that they're supposed to have a business where they're conducting operations. So it's actually illegal for them to operate out of mailboxes. We're here in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, outside of this office building. What was the address again, Justin?
501 Cambria.
501 Cambria, here in Bensalem. And we went inside and we asked the person at the front desk, hey, where are these addresses for these particular suites? For all the suite numbers, they go up to about 150. All the suite numbers that are listed for all these different businesses that claim to be trucking businesses go upwards in the 200s to 300s in suites. There's no physical location for them to actually operate. But how many businesses that we're showing as active trucking companies are supposedly operating off of this one small office building?
It's about 47 carriers in this building. A little more than over 30 are actually active. Most of the other ones have been inactive for a couple of years now.
And the ones that we're investigating, most of those are basically just mailboxes that we saw.
Correct. There was one office suite that still has a couple of trucking companies operating out of it. The name of the company I was looking for, when I knocked on the door, two gentlemen opened the door for us, and I gave the name of the company that we were looking for. They had no idea what I was talking about.
Sounds like Minneapolis, doesn't it?
Names for the carriers that they represented. I presented myself as a truck driver looking for a job, and they told me to get lost.
What? Assholes.
These chameleon carriers hire illegal immigrants as drivers, putting them behind the wheel of big rigs, killing innocent Americans on our roads, and spreading risk across all shipping.
This is great, man. I'm glad these guys are doing this.
Block FMCSA inspections.
What if they're taking after Nick Shirley?
And hiding this illegal labor. It gets worse, as these illegal immigrants
this
are
crash
also
was
hauling
nasty.
U.S. mail for the Postal Service.
Unbelievable.
And even military items, endangering critical supply chains too.
USPS NDC, Network Distribution Center in Northeast Pennsylvania. This particular hub, they dispatch all mail outside of the network here in Philadelphia. Most of the mail that comes in goes into the PNDC, the Processing Distribution Center in Southwest Philadelphia. This mail is mail that's collected all around the area, brought here, and then dispatched along the nationwide network. They rely upon a lot of outside contractors to come in because the post office doesn't have long-haul routes. Every driver who drives for the post office themselves, they're mostly local. My last route I drove for them was only 30 miles. These are contracts that are going out for hundreds or even thousands of miles. This is like a glaring red sign. When you have a semi-truck with no permanent marking and they have a magnetic sign, that's not a guarantee, but it's a sign of a red flag. What's really funny is this is a magnetic sign on top of another magnetic sign. And when you search the DOT numbers for this particular truck, they have an out-of-service rating of 33.3%.
Whoa.
So that means every single time one of these trucks gets pulled over randomly by DOT, they have a 1 in 3 shot of being shut down, placed out of service.
Wow.
Falsifying their driving logs. That's the other thing that these carriers have to do in order to meet the service for the rates that they're charging. The post office requires teams for any trucks going on routes over 500 miles. And what we started to notice is that a lot of carriers, they'll have one guy in the truck, or maybe they have 2 guys in the truck, but the other guy in the truck isn't really going on that trip. They'll go to nearby truck stops, place another guy in the truck, get to the terminal, verify with the expediter on the dock that yes, we do have a team, so please put that load on our truck. And then as soon as they're out of the facility, they go to the nearby truck stop, drop the one guy off, and that solo driver continues on that journey. That is a major problem happening at the Indianapolis mail facility right now.
Oh, lovely. There's no end to this fraud now, is there?
So we're here in Philadelphia, outside of a building for a company called Old Philly Trucking, which is not very old. It's only been around for a few years, a handful of years. But what's interesting about this place is that not only is it a residential building, which has some red flags, but this particular company has over 400 trucks that are assigned to it. Now, driving around here, I don't see where you can park park mini trucks at all, nevertheless 400 trucks. So how exactly does this work?
Most of these operations that we see are clusters of companies inside one building. This one stood out to me because it's one company in this entire area. They have 470 trucks and 470 drivers, but as you can see, it's nothing but houses. There are no office buildings. There's no ops center. If anything, we'll find a mailbox, and that's probably where all their mail is going. But if I'm DOT or FMCSA and I'm getting red flags about this company, I need to be able to show up and audit their office paperwork, their driver logs. I have to be able to see their trucks and ensure that all the trucks have the proper paperwork. There is not a truck anywhere near out here.
Nothing.
Now, it is not illegal for a trucking company to have a physical address and a mailing address registered, but one of those addresses has to be what's called your principal place of business. It's somewhere where the FMCSA can send somebody to take a look at your operations and give you guys a safety audit. Both the mailing address and the physical address are registered right to that building right there.
The FMC.
I mean, good grief, man. Like, why doesn't the government already know this? Aren't they conducting routine audits? Evidently, they're not. I mean, if they've been around since 2021, that's 5 years. So they look. I don't like over-regulation. Definitely don't like too much regulation and red tape and everything. So I don't know. I don't have the answers to everything. But it maybe perhaps that the Department of Transportation, whenever there's a new trucking company that comes up on the radar, or anytime somebody starts their own trucking company, maybe within 12 months or maybe within 24 months, perhaps there should be a mandatory audit, or at least some representative from the government, from the Department of Transportation, who at least shows up and verifies that there is an actual company here. There's real trucks right here. You said you've got 400 trucks. You know, it shouldn't take more than, I don't know, like a half an hour to just verify that the company is there. And of course, there would most likely be ways around that too. You know, fraudsters, they get pretty crafty at what they do. However, that's the least they can do, because if they were to audit this place within the first year or 2 years of it going online, they would find out that there is no trucking company. And I'm sure that they're probably, I don't know if they're getting government contracts or if they're getting government grants. Whatever it is, they're getting money from something with regard to doing this, because otherwise, why do it? All right, so we've got this from USDOT Rapid Response. Transportation Secretary orders sweeping CDL test changes in trucking crackdown. So it's not related to what they're doing, but it's kind of in the same vein. It has to do with transportation and trucking. So there's a new DOT rule, follows high-profile crashes involving illegal immigrant truck drivers who had obtained CDLs. And the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, on Friday announced sweeping changes to commercial trucking regulations, including a new requirement that all commercial driver's license exams be administered exclusively in English. So that is fantastic news. They implemented that here in Florida recently. So it sounds like that's going to be a sweeping across all 50 states. And that's definitely good to hear. Speaking at the Department of Transportation headquarters in D.C., Duffy and Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administrator Derek Bars said the move is aimed at strengthening oversight and ensuring drivers can read road signs and communicate with law enforcement. Quote, what we're doing is implementing a rule that will say there's one language in which you can take your test. It's English only, Duffy said. You can take the test in English. You can't speak English. You can't read English. You're not going to do well on the test. Duffy noted that several states, including California, currently offer CDL exams in multiple languages. In the state of California, you can take the driver's test, skills test, and proficiency test. You can take it in 20 different languages. In addition to the English-only testing requirement, Duffy said DOT will ask states to disqualify drivers who fail to meet federal English proficiency standards. I mean, you're going to ask them to? So maybe it just has to be an act of Congress or something that has to be put into federal law, I guess. I don't know. It's just wild during this administration with just so much obstruction and pushback and assaulting federal agents and just all this nonsense that the left is engaged in. It's really starting to like lift the veil over the federal government and reveal like how little power that they really have with regard to enforcement. It's actually kind of mind-boggling. I mean, I figured that agents or even the Department of Transportation, they could just lock shit down anytime they wanted or anytime they needed. And it doesn't really seem to be that way at all. Anyway, Duffy also criticized what he described as lax oversight under the Biden administration, accusing former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg of not enforcing rigorous standards for certifying commercial driving schools. Duffy alleged that some commercial driving schools, which he referred to as CDL mills, lacked proper curriculum or training. The has shut down 7,000 of these schools, according to Duffy. We should expect that we should be safe, and that those who drive those 80,000-pound big rigs, that they're well trained and they're well qualified and they're going to be safe. Federal officials recently conducted more than 8,200 inspections under Operation Safe Drive, taking 704 drivers out of service. About 500 were cited for failing to meet English proficiency standards. The announcement follows several high-profile crashes involving drivers who were in the country illegally, which we definitely know that. And earlier this month, Bekzan Bieshkiv, truck driver from Kazakhstan, entered the U.S. in 2023 under the CBP One app, allegedly killed 4 people in a crash in Indiana. He was issued a CDL in Pennsylvania. Another one last August, issued CDL in California. Harjinder Singh allegedly made an illegal U-turn, jackknifed his truck, caused a crash that killed 3 people. And I believe that one, yeah, that was the one in Florida. That happened, I believe in, or yeah, it says last August. He was charged with 3 counts of vehicular homicide. DOT did not immediately respond to Fox Business' request for comment. All right, breaking 911, breaking on February 23rd under orders from Southcom Commander General Francis L. Donovan. Joint Task Force Southern Spear carried out a targeted strike on a vessel linked to designated terrorist organizations in the Caribbean. The boat was confirmed to be operating along known drug trafficking routes. 3 suspected narco-terrorists were killed. No U.S. forces were injured. Boom! And there you go. Boom goes the dynamite. No more drugs. Not for those guys. You're not going to be delivering all those narcotics to the United States of America. I mean, you can already see them all. It looks like, well, maybe that's just debris, but I'm sure that's all drugs. It's just scattered all over the water instantaneously. All right, so another one bites the dust. They've already had dozens and dozens of these that they've released over the last several months since they started, like around early September was when they started Operation Southern Spear. And Travel Gov, the country of Lebanon. On February 23rd, 2026, the Department of State ordered the departure from Lebanon of non-emergency U.S. government personnel and family members of government personnel due to the security situation in Beirut. The travel advisory for Lebanon remains at level 4, do not travel. Read the full travel advisory at the following link, travel.state.gov. So, evidently, things are getting crazy in Beirut. So, if you happen to be in Lebanon, or if you know anybody who's there, I'm sure they're very well aware of what's going on, especially if they're already there. They've just issued a travel advisory level 4. Do not travel to Lebanon, at least not now. The Bureau of International Organization Affairs, the department will no longer fund or support international organizations or conventions that act contrary to America's interest or that erode our sovereignty. We will no longer defer to unelected international bureaucrats who run them. We will not permit international organizations to become weapons in the hands of our adversaries, deployed to target Americans and citizens of partner nations. Very well said. International Organization Affairs from the U.S. Department of State. And that is a good statement. Always like to see that. U.S. Trade Representative. President Trump's trade deal with Indonesia unlocks American exporters access to the world's 4th most populous country, creating commercially meaningful opportunities for American farmers and manufacturers. They got a whole bunch of headlines with U.S. and Indonesia finalizing their trade deal, scrapping tariffs on almost all American goods. And Indonesia secures a 19% tariff in a trade deal with the United States of America. And this is going to be the Office of the United States Trade Representative at USTR.gov. Last week, President Trump announced an agreement on reciprocal trade with Indonesia, removing tariff barriers on over 99% of U.S. products to expand Americans' access to Indonesia's market of over 280 million people. This historic agreement deepens our economic partnership with a key partner in the Indo-Pacific region and creates new opportunities for American farmers, manufacturers, and producers. And of course, they've got all the headlines there. And the announcement was applauded by American farmers and industry leaders. The National Milk Producers Federation President and CEO, the U.S. Dairy Export Council President and CEO, National Cattlemen's Beef Association, U.S. Meat Export Federation, and then it goes on and on, like all these CEOs, all these top tier guys were very happy about this move. And let's check out the next post. And let's see if Indonesia holds up to this. From the White House, buyer beware from President Donald J. Trump. Any country that wants to play games with the ridiculous Supreme Court decision, notice how it's in lowercase, especially those who have ripped off the USA for years and even decades, will be met with a much higher tariff and worse than that which they just recently agreed to. Buyer beware. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I think maybe Indonesia won't be playing games. I bet they're going to play ball. I think they'll be all right. Breaking 911, let's check out the winter storm. Several vehicles, including snowplows, are stranded along the lakeshore in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Brandon Kopic here. Behind me is the lakeshore, a road that runs along the lakeshore here. And as you can see, we've got multiple vehicles stuck over here. We got a plow trying to get this plow out right now. We've been trying to dig people out, but look behind us here. We got winds in excess of 60 miles an hour at times.
Wow, man.
Even to the point at which it's blowing my gimbal. So as you guys can see, whiteout conditions, very much whiteout conditions here.
Very much so.
We've been trying to dig these guys out and get people moving, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that. People, if you don't have to be on the road, just try and stay off the roadways today. It is not a good day to be out, especially with these blizzard conditions.
Yeah, no shit, man. You do not want to get stuck out in that. I mean, who knows if anybody's going to find you anytime soon. That's why it's very important. You got to pack that kit, which I covered in the swamp of probably, what was that, about a month ago when that last winter storm happened? Said like keep emergency stuff in your car, first aid kit, but most importantly, keep something to keep you warm, like a blanket, some of those hot hands packs, and what else did they say? Like food. Food's another important one, and all that good stuff. Make sure your phones are always fully charged before you head out. From Breaking 911, Providence, Rhode Island has officially set a new snowfall record with 33 inches and counting, surpassing the 28.6 inches recorded during the historic blizzard of 1978. And that's just a look at the live radar when they snapped that picture. This was posted at, well, the image was at 1:10 p.m. today, and the post was almost at 2 o'clock. So yeah, man, snow very much still falling in the afternoon hours. I don't know if it's still happening or not, because I'm pretty far away from all the snow. I'm a lot further south, but yeah, man, that's some crazy snow, man. A lot of snow. NYPD officers have a snowball fight amid the historic blizzard hitting the Northeast. This is from RT. Have a quick look at this. Let me build a snowman. Cops out there blowing off some steam. Well, you know, sometimes you just got to have some fun, because at the end of the day, we're all big kids, at least from time to time. From Brandon Gutenschwager, this was about 4 hours ago, so this happened today. NYPD officers getting hit with snowballs in Washington Square Park this afternoon. Yeah, they were not happy about this. A lot of higher profile conservatives were sharing this video, saying that this was appalling what they were doing to the police, because they were taking a beating from all these people. So I believe it happened at Washington Square Park. It may have been another park in New York City, but they had some big organized event where everybody can show up. I don't know if they were trying to break like any world records or anything, but they were trying to organize this like massive snowball fight, where I assume that this is where the officers were. They were at this snowball fight, and of course, because the cops showed up, everybody wanted to pummel them with snowballs. So let's take a look. Yo, oh shit. Yeah, they had enough. Oh shit, uh-oh. Oh man, dude, they got him good. Probably some asshole threw ice at him. Yeah, no respect. No respect at all for the law. Of course not. It's New York City. Secretary Kristi Noem, a powerful nor'easter continues to intensify across the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, with blizzard conditions now underway or imminent from Philadelphia through New York City, Connecticut, and Boston. Forecast to drop 1 to 2 feet of snow, bring strong winds up to 70 miles an hour, widespread travel disruptions and flight cancellations, power outage risk, and coastal flooding potential through Monday before gradually tapering later in the day. And that was from earlier today at around 10 o'clock a.m. Stay safe and stay off the roads. And this is a live radar, so it looks like it's pretty well dissipated at this point. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot. There's some like up here in Maine and like parts of New York and Pennsylvania, but it looks like the worst of it seemed to have moved on. So I'm not sure how cold it is. I mean, it's 49 degrees where I'm at, which is pretty cold for this time of year. Even though it's February, it should be warming up here by now, but nope. It's been a brutal winter, man. It's been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I've seen frost multiple times this year, and usually we go years without seeing any frost. I've already seen it like 4 or 5 separate days this year. It's been crazy. Crazy ass winter, man. Freaking global warming my ass. And from National Guard, always ready, always there. Today, more than 550 National Guardsmen from multiple states are supporting state and local partners in responding to Winter Storm Hernando. So are they normalizing naming these winter storms? I seem to remember, 15 years ago, give or take, the Weather Channel, they started naming the winter storms, which I thought was as cringe as all hell when they did that. And it just kind of seems that maybe it's finally sticking, that they're actually just naming these winter storms now. So there you have it. National Guard showing up just in case they're needed, which I'm sure in many cases they were with that amount of snow. It's crazy, man. Almost 3 feet of snow in places. And from the U.S. Department of the Interior, they posted this earlier today. Pilot Rock looks stunning under a blanket of fresh snow at Cascade Siskiyou National Monument. Located at the crossroads of the Cascade, Klamath, and Siskiyou mountain ranges, this Oregon monument protects one of the most biologically diverse landscapes in the West. Check that out, man. That's a winter wonderland. Very cool photo. Way out in Oregon. Never been to Oregon. And as politically brain dead as they've become, which, I don't know, maybe they've been that way for many years, at least in the Portland area. Not really got a whole big desire to go out there, but I think it'd be cool to take a train through the Cascades. That'd be awesome, man. That'd be very cool. I can only imagine how scenic that would be. U.S. Ambassador to China. And this is David, let me get his full name. David Perdue, U.S. Ambassador to China. He says, on this day in 1945, our U.S. Marines famously raised the flag on Iwo Jima. After 36 days of fighting, over 80 years later, we honor the unmatched strength of the U.S. Armed Forces that brought peace to the Pacific and an end to World War II. Peace through strength. Of course, everybody's familiar with that image. It's about one of the most iconic images in American military history. Raising of the flag in Iwo Jima during World War II. And California Republican Party, watch and share. At Gavin Newsom, he keeps speaking down to America's black community during his quote-unquote pick-me national tour. Our chairwoman, Corinne Rankin, responds. And she's the California Republican Party chairwoman. Responding to Gavin Newsom, or Gavin's racism, I should say.
I'm like you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. I cannot read.
You have to have a passport, and 2/3 African Americans don't even have passports.
Gavin Newsom continues to speak down to black people, saying that we aren't smart enough or capable of getting an ID or a passport or even score higher than 1,000 on our SATs. Even in his last podcast, he was saying that black Americans aren't capable of reading. You say that you're like us.
Yikes.
If you were like us, you would know that we're doctors, we're lawyers, community leaders, veterans who fought for this country, parents raising the next generation of leaders. We are Americans, and we will never be defined by someone else's limitations.
Oh, yeah, man. God bless America. Okay, that actually reminds me of something. Here, let me show you something real quick. Which that actually reminds me, I forgot about the Mayor Mamdani snow shoveling. I'll get to that here in just a second. Check this out. So I came across this quote from Malcolm X. Maybe a lot of people have already heard this before. The white liberal is the worst enemy to America and the worst enemy to the black man. The white liberal has perfected the art of using the Negro as a pawn. From Malcolm X. That's a quote from Malcolm X himself, not from me. That's from Malcolm X. And yeah, he said a lot. He's got a lot of brilliant quotes out there, but that has absolutely withstood the test of time, you think? I think so. So anyway, all right, so let me head up to, check this out. This is like the guy in the hurricane in Florida, that iconic meme. The guy standing there just holding the flag just like this dude. Showing the neighbors what a real Team USA fan looks like. Yeah, it's hilarious. Anyway, I came across that. But anyway, so here's this article. I came across it over the weekend, but I wanted to save it for today because the blizzard happened today. So I figured I would just hold off until right now. So Mamdani administration fails to attract any shovelers for hours at New York City site. So he was, here, let's hear him say it here. This is nice. I'm glad that they've got this here because I played this the other day. I think I played it, it was on Saturday. I think I did a video where I showed this clip, and it's hilarious.
DSNY will also deploy over 1,000 emergency snow shovelers beginning Sunday night, another early activation. To aid this effort, we have added an additional evening shift with 300 shovelers in advance of the height of the storm. And we're utilizing 33 DSNY vans and 2 DSNY buses to transport shovelers where they're needed faster. And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
By the way, they required 3 forms of ID. So you had to bring 3 separate forms of ID, but they don't care about not having ID to vote. But you got to have 3 forms of ID to shovel freaking snow in New York City. Well, apparently nobody really showed up to this to shovel snow. Well, first of all, they were only offering, I don't know if it has it in here. It might have it in the article. I'll read it over. But he was only offering them like $20 an hour, which is like what, bare minimum wage for New York City probably. So anyway, let's take a look. Okay, so this is the beginning. The Mamdani administration failed for hours to attract any emergency shovelers at one Queens garage on Sunday. Okay, well, one Queens garage. Did literally nobody show up in the city, or did they meet the quota? I don't know. While planning to try to dig out New Yorkers with a fourth of the force the city used for its last mega storm, despite Mayor Zohran Mamdani's widespread attempted promotion of the city's public field emergency shoveling program, a sign-up sheet at the Maspeth sanitation garages was empty, city workers told the Post during a visit late Sunday morning. Let's see. Mayor Zohran Mamdani warned Sunday that the blizzard could be one of the worst in the city's history. I mean, that's crazy they're shoveling all this by hand. Don't they have like snow machines or something? No, probably not, because they're probably horrifically in debt at this point for the city. I haven't seen anybody sign up yet today. No one, the employee said. There were also no signs of shovelers lining up for work at 299 South Street in a sanitation garage on Manhattan's Lower East Side. Workers there declined to comment to the Post. Meanwhile, at another garage in Brooklyn's East Williamsburg neighborhood, about 35 people had signed up to help cover the large neighborhood before the snow started falling. So, yeah, there was at least one place where people showed up. While city officials said they expect to attract a total of 1,400 public snow shovelers to start round-the-clock shifts beginning Sunday night, that quantity is still a fraction of the 6,454 people who were recruited for the 2015-16 winter season, which saw up to 33,500 shovelers working simultaneously at peak times that period. So in other words, New York City is just going to be buried in snow for God knows how long. This year's shovelers will see the work even more challenging than the snow deposited by Winter Storm Fern in January, with parts of the city expected to be hit with up to 28 inches of snow. Wow. The snow is also predicted to be wetter and heavier than what New Yorkers have seen in recent years, with meteorologist and Mamdani himself warning shovelers to be careful. The mayor has recently caught some backlash of the city's rigorous sign-up requirements for the program. Yeah, requiring a whole bunch of different IDs. Well, it says 2 original forms and their social security cards, so there is indeed 3 forms you have to bring. The New York City Sanitation Department website states that in order to register as an emergency snow shoveler, an applicant must provide 2 small photos sized 1 to 1.5 square inches. Why? Why doesn't your driver's license suffice? That's ridiculous. While some have called, well, what about your vaccine passport? Can you bring your COVID vaccine passport? That should suffice. Didn't they make you take your stupid friggin' picture to have that put into it? While some have called on Mamdani's administration to change the requirements so as to allow more people to pick up a shovel, city officials claimed there was little they can do about it. We know there's been some press about the requirements, and we want to be clear. As with any employer, the city of New York has a legal obligation under federal law to verify work authorization and maintain proper documentation before issuing payment. And we are not legally permitted to hand out checks without completing that process. Ensuring compliance with employment law isn't red tape for its own sake. It's what allows the program to operate responsibly and sustainably, helping keep our city running through the toughest winter days. Look, I mean, you're not going to get a bunch of pushback from people from people with you requiring ID. We're just pointing out the absurd hypocrisy that you're requiring ID to simply shovel snow, but you're perfectly fine with not checking anybody's ID when they freaking vote for the upcoming consequence to the future of our country. Anyway, shovelers earn an hourly rate of $19. What's the minimum wage in New York? It's got to be around that. And the pay jumps to $28 an hour after the first 40 hours worked in a week. And nobody's going to get to 40 hours in a week. I bet the job would probably be, for the most part, done within 40 hours, but maybe not, according to the Sanitation Department's website. Wow, man. So let me take a quick look at that, the minimum wage. Yeah, it's close enough. New York City minimum wage, $17 an hour for most employees. For tipped service employees, $14.15 cash wage. For tip food service, okay, that doesn't apply. So this applies to New York City. The rest of New York State is $16 per hour. So yeah, man, $17 an hour. They're basically paying you bare minimum wage. No wonder nobody showed up. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. DOW rapid response. While on the Arsenal of Freedom tour, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, addressed the manufacturing workers at True Anomaly. One of the biggest wars that we're fighting is against our own Pentagon bureaucracy every single day. This is an unrelenting war of attrition inside our bureaucracy that we intend to win. They're not giving up the fight and win decisively. Let's have a look. Yeah, just remember that over 90%, so I've read, over 90% of people who are in the DC bureaucracy who vote, they vote Democrat. Yeah, as long as it works. It's got to work. Yeah, it's got to be the best. What the hell? Okay, there were a few other clips. I just decided to go with one because it's not really earth-shattering, breaking, blockbuster news with regard to Pete Hegseth speaking at an event. There is a full video, probably at DOW Rapid Response. They've got the full video either there or probably Pete Hegseth also reposted it. From the Office of the DNI, SOTU, State of the Union Countdown. This is what America First leadership looks like. President designated violent cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, enabling our National Counterterrorism Center to deploy 2 decades of counterterrorism expertise against narco-terrorists. We are dismantling their networks and protecting American lives.
President Trump has already taken historic action immediately to secure our borders in record time and designated several cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, a move that has empowered our National Counterterrorism Center here at ODNI to deploy over 2 decades of counterterrorism expertise towards detecting and deterring cartels and gangs like never before. In just 1 year, this designation by President Trump prevented more than 10,000 individuals with direct ties to narco-terrorism from accessing our country. And we work very closely with our partners at the federal, state, and local level. We've assisted them in the apprehensions of several cartel terrorists, including a Sinaloa cartel boss known as El Pato, who allegedly led a vast network of drug trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, and murder. Another example is a CJNG-affiliated baby trafficker called La Diabla, who preyed on vulnerable pregnant women in Mexico, lured them to remote areas, cut out their babies, harvested their organs, and sold these newborn babies. These are just a few examples of the progress that's been made toward ending the gang and cartel violence that's plagued the American people and put our lives at risk for far too long.
Yeah, it's horrifying. There's just no limit to how just depraved that the cartels can be. From Fiscal Service, so this is, they did a trivia time last week, how much government or how much federal spending has been recorded so far in fiscal year 2026, and you can find the answer, so on and so forth. So it looked like the most popular answer was 7.4 trillion. I actually think that the 1.8 was the correct answer, but we're going to find out right now. The correct answer is $1.8 trillion. According to USA Spending, about $1.8 trillion in federal spending has been recorded so far in fiscal year 2026. Like, we're just getting freaking started. It still feels like the New Year's Eve was just like last week, and they've already spent almost $2 trillion of our tax money. Unreal, man. And they are full steam ahead, of course. From the White House, make the lake great again. What lake is he talking about? Very important to save the Great Salt Lake in Utah. This is an environmental hazard that must be worked on immediately. It is of tremendous interest to me. The people of Utah are spectacular, and they deserve to be helped. I am dealing with your very caring governor, Spencer Cox, and we are going to make it all happen. Make the lake great again. President Donald J. Trump. So I'm not familiar with what's going on with Great Salt Lake. Has Salt Lake City been polluting it, or is there like a sewage issue, or I don't even know. Not even sure what's going on. Maybe there's an erosion issue. Honestly, not familiar, but it sounds like that the federal government may be stepping in to do some work on it. From FEMA, following the quick approval of an emergency declaration by the president and Under Secretary Kristi Noem with Department of Homeland Security. With her leadership, we're working with the Environmental Protection Agency and local D.C. officials to support cleanup, repairs, and public health efforts related to the Potomac sewer line collapse. More info is going to be found on FEMA.gov. Yeah, they've been talking about this a lot over the last week or so. I guess like massive amounts, what was it, millions of gallons of sewage was just dumped out into the Potomac River. So, of course, President Trump, he's blaming Democrat officials for it. Not sure if that's, actually who is to blame. Probably is. Which is kind of ironic because aren't they supposed to be like the top of the top environmentalist types? Anyway, under the leadership of President Trump, Department of Homeland Security, FEMA is actively coordinating with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to support cleanup response efforts due to the recent Potomac Interceptor sewer line collapse in the District of Columbia. Residents and visitors should continue following safety instructions from local officials. President Trump's rapid approval of the district's request facilitated this coordination. This emergency declaration was approved in record time, another example of this administration's commitment to removing unnecessary roadblocks and quickly getting resources to communities who need help, said Secretary Kristi Noem. FEMA will continue to work with the Environmental Protection Agency to ensure that the District of Columbia has the tools and funding it needs to clean up the river, repair the sewer line, and keep its residents safe, which is it sucks a lot for FEMA because they're not getting paid right now either, thanks to the Republicans in the Senate. President Trump approved a federal emergency disaster declaration for the District of Columbia and the areas where the district has responsibilities in the state of Maryland and Commonwealth of Virginia, enabling the district to access critical federal resources to supplement their response efforts if needed. FEMA is authorized to identify, mobilize, and provide at its discretion equipment and resources necessary to alleviate the impact of the emergency. FEMA is providing direct federal assistance at a 75% cost share, allowing the agency to tap into the expertise and resources of other federal agencies. And they've got some other info, safety tips and things like that if you just happen to be around the Potomac River. And, of course, that'll be linked below. And from Secretary Brooke Rollins, and she is from Agriculture, right? Yep, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, launching the inaugural Rural Revival Governors Task Force. Strong states, strong rural America.
Hey everyone, this is Brooke Rollins here today with 3 of our amazing cabinet members and also behind us, the stars of the show, some of America's greatest governors. We gather today here at USDA with these unprecedented leaders because President Trump and our leaders in Washington and across this country remain laser focused on reviving rural America, not with just talk, but with results. At USDA, we are carrying out the president's rural revival agenda by delivering real relief for working families, unlocking investment, and restoring opportunity in the communities that feed and fuel this nation. This is about action, from historic working families tax cuts to billions invested in rural health, water, broadband, and energy. But it's also about partnership, and that's why leaders across this cabinet are here today, alongside, like I said, our great partners from across the states.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary. A strong rural rural America is a healthy America. For too long, rural communities were left behind when it came to health access and outcomes. Under President Trump, that's changing. With the historic investments in rural health care, community facilities, emergency services, we are making sure that rural families can access care close to home and live longer and healthier lives.
Hi, it's Lori Chavez-Dreamer, Labor Secretary. Rural Revival means good jobs. Jobs that let families stay in the communities they love. This agenda is creating real opportunity, expanding manufacturing, agriculture, and skilled trades in rural America while cutting red tape that held workers back. President Trump's focus is simple. If you work hard, you should be able to build a future right where you live.
I'm Kelly Loeffler, Administrator of the Small Business Administration. Small businesses are the backbone of rural America. Through this Rural Revival agenda, we're expanding access to capital, cutting taxes, and doubling down on small business investment so that rural entrepreneurs can grow, hire, and thrive. When rural small businesses succeed, entire communities succeed. And that's exactly what President Trump is delivering.
Thanks, everyone.